Hello everyone, welcome to the Unconventional Intentional Homemaking podcast. My name's Issa.
And I'm Blaise.
And together we live together, we're married, and we make intentional homemaking videos on YouTube.
Yes.
And this is our podcast. And this one is about routines and habits. Basically, because it's just into the new year, we are thinking a lot ourselves about how things work and what doesn't. So this one's about starting the new year afresh and working out whether or not your routines work for you.
Which is a good thing to do. Like that, a big part of that intentionality is this reviewing and checking and making sure that the things that you do are serving you.
Yes. Yeah, make sure that the idea is that we want to make sure that our routines are intentional, that they're not just something we're doing because we decided we'd do them, that they actually work.
Yes.
So that's the point.
Yeah.
Which I guess, like, we have a lot of routines, but that doesn't mean everyone does. So I guess the first start part of this would be to work out whether or not you have routines. And I'd argue that actually we didn't used to have routines, we had habits.
Yes.
Which might seem the same, but it's not quite.
They're not quite the same now, because now we've got a bit of both.
Yeah, now we do both. So what's the difference?
Well, to start with, our routines are very purposeful, they're very planned, they're very intentional, they're very, like, we do specific things at specific times for specific reasons. Whereas I would say a habit is something a little bit more ad hoc.
Well, it depends. You can intentionally form a habit, but habits are often things that you just kind of learn over time. Most of us at some point have had a habit where we just one day looked at it and go, why on earth am I doing this? And the answer is because I always have.
Yeah. I guess habits are much more about behaviours rather than routines that are more structured.
And you can do a routine until it becomes a habit.
Yes.
Which I think we've done in some areas. But the difference is subtle, but there is one. And routine is much more about working out what you want to achieve, I think.
I mean, I would say as an example, particularly for what I meant a minute ago, is we have morning, afternoon, evening and bedtime routines, but I also have habits of when I leave a room, look to see if there's anything you can take with you.
Yeah, and that's a habit you purposefully formed.
Yes. But so whereas our routines are more, we do this at this time for these reasons, the habit is, it's like that mental, do this when you do that.
Yeah, so a good example I think for us is when we met, you had a evening like bedtime routine that you would call your routine, but it was much more of a habit than it was a routine. It was things that you'd implemented along the way that you'd just kind of learned how to do to cope with various things in life.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it. The habits were more reactory in that way.
Whereas when we decided to actually implement more routines, which we did a couple of years ago, we actually looked at that bedtime routine and changed it so that it was a planned routine rather than a habit formed over time.
Yeah, so I guess there's more that, like we said, habits can be intentional, but then
They're often not.
They're often not.
Yeah.
And then when does it become a routine? So I think there is a lot of crossover, and perhaps it's semantics.
We like those.
We do like those.
But I guess the point is whether it's a habit or a routine is to ask the question, does it work? What's the outcome you are looking for? And does the habit or the routine that you've implemented, does it help? Does it work?
Oh yeah, there's an awful lot of habits that, habits and coping mechanisms that do a specific function, that do work in some ways, but can actually long term be very detrimental in others.
Yeah.
And they can become quite constraining and negative. So not all habits are good.
No, definitely not. But some good can be. It's not.
No. There's plenty that can be.
When we decided to be more intentional, what we did was we sat down and said, what is the outcome we want? What are we trying to achieve? Take, for example, our house. Our goal was we wanted a house we could be proud of. I think that was probably the crux of it, is that we didn't really think about what that meant for cleaning or decorating or any of those things. We just wanted a house that we could be proud of and that we were comfortable being in. And then what that boiled down to, well, we would be more comfortable if it was cleaner.
And tidier.
And tidier
less
and
stuff in it. Like, the decluttering was a massive part of that.
It was, but we sat down and thought about it and went, okay, so how do we make our house cleaner and tidier and more decluttered?
So that's the intentional part of this intentional homemaking is,
Yeah.
you know, these habits and routines, do they serve you? Are they a net positive? Are they worth it? Or actually, are you finding that they're having unintended outcomes?
Which is the point of this entire podcast, in that just because you've had a routine for 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, however long, that does not mean it's still the right routine. And sometimes you might need to adjust them, especially as we go through different seasons of life, different changes, like different homes, different things. Like, we're coming up to an age where we are officially middle-aged, I think.
There's no I think about it. We are middle-aged.
Officially middle-aged, I think.
Officially middle-aged.
And that brings a whole set of changes and differences with it that we're going to have to now account for.
Yes. So I guess that's the other thing, is like making sure it doesn't just work for you, but making sure it's working for the whole house. So we do have an awful lot of routines. So there is a good reason for this. Like, highly routined households are not for everyone, and they're not for every household.
No.
But they're definitely for me.
Yeah. So I really thrive in structure and routine, but I don't necessarily do it very well, and I fall out of routine very, very quickly and easily. You, however, do not.
Yeah, one of the things that we've had to routine into our routines is change, is planned and structured change within that routine to meet your, you know, potential ADHD needs. Whereas I have autism, and I really like routine. I really like structure. I really like, my brain really likes familiarity points. So every time we do something that my brain is expecting, I feel all warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
And then when we do something that I'm not expecting and that wasn't on the plan, if you change the routine suddenly, that was it. That I would break. That would not work for me.
No. Which is why it's partly why we implemented a lot of routines. So we have a lot of routines that are for you, but we also, when we decided that I was going to be in charge of the bulk of the home, and that we wanted a house that we could be proud of, I knew that I had to find a way of achieving that, which is where we found Fly Lady.
Yes.
Found Fly Lady. I've tried Fly Lady several times in the past. We've talked about it quite a lot of times. But I revisited Fly Lady, and for the first time in my life it worked.
Yes. But why? Why this time?
Because I had more time. It was my main focus. It was a lot of things like that.
Let's be fair, Fly Lady takes an awful lot of time.
It takes a lot of time.
If you don't have that time, it is not going to work, because one of the things you have to budget into routines is they take time to do.
They do, yeah.
So I would say that, like, one of the key reasons routines stop working is when you don't give them enough time, effort and attention.
Yeah. So our routines, we have a morning one, an evening, an afternoon, a nighttime, bedtime routine. We also have a weekly routine, we have a daily routine, we have a monthly routine, and we even have some sporadic yearly ones.
Yes.
It's a lot of routines.
I like routines.
You don't follow most of these routines. Most of these routines are not for you. Most of these are my routines.
Yes. I also have, like, some micro routines that I do as well. I kind of call them habit stacking. But yeah, I do some things, and my routine will look different depending on if I'm going into the office and whether I'm not going into the office, whether, you know, depending on what hobby I'm focused on at the time.
Yeah.
And the other things that I do. Like, there might be some subtle changes. But we do also, a lot of the routines we do are time allocated. We do this routine at this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or on this day, or yeah, that sort of thing. And for the most part, these routines work. In particular, our morning and evening are the ones that work the most for us, I think. Like, without those, our day falls apart very quickly.
They're definitely the ones that have the biggest impact, that when they don't work, they're the ones that had the biggest negative impact.
Yeah, and I would say for about a year and a half, the rest of the routines also really, really worked.
Yeah.
The last 3 months, I wouldn't say our bulk of our routines have been working the same. So for the last 3 months, it has not been working. And there are lots of reasons for that. I think the main reason is that I'm busier than I was. I don't have the same amount of time to dedicate to housework that I did.
And you caught COVID.
And I caught COVID, and I
And
haven't
you're still,
been quite right since.
You've not been quite like you've got long COVID, and things like that matter.
They do, yeah. Taking into your realistic energy levels is actually really important, because what I could do happily a year ago, I'm struggling with right now.
And I did change jobs recently.
Yeah.
So that also has an impact on routines, or we did have to tweak them a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's also, we're still settling into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's lots of reasons. Also, some of the routines were working really well. And then I got complacent with them because they were working so well. And now I'm distracted with my phone a little bit too much, and now my routines aren't working because the timing is all out of whack because I'm playing on my phone too much.
Yeah, we had a conversation the other night, and you were like, I don't know why my evening routine isn't working anymore. I'm getting to bed so late. And I'm like, do you realise, don't think you'd realise, but I just said, do you realise how much you're on your phone before going to bed?
Yeah, which is, so I use being on my phone as a part of my bedtime routine. But I'd started doing it out of order.
You'd started doing it out of order, and you'd lengthen the time.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm ready for bed, and I'm in bed. And sometimes it's an extra 15-20 minutes before you get up to do your nighttime things, before you can go to bed.
And then I have to play on my phone again
yeah.
as part of my bedtime routine.
But what was really interesting to me is you hadn't realised that at all.
No. And that's an interesting thing. Sometimes you need someone to be like, hey. Because, yeah, to me, like, being on my phone is part of that routine.
Yeah, which is fine. I do the same.
Yeah. But because I did it out of order, and it was the right thing at the wrong time. And that put everything out of whack. And then I'm doing that again in the morning.
Yeah, and then the morning routines, we're getting later and later.
Later and later, and then that's having an impact.
And the thing is that because I know you're lengthening that morning routine, I'm setting my alarm later and later and later.
Yes. And then that's
and then it's all snowballing.
And then it's all snowballing. So yeah.
Because I'm thinking, if I'm going to have to wait for you for 5 minutes, then I might as well get an extra 5 minutes sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to have to rebalance all of those things, because some of them work, we're just not doing them very well.
Yeah, they work really well when I stick to them as intended.
But not all of our routines are.
Yeah.
Some of our cleaning, Fly Lady routines, I've been really struggling to find enough time in the day to do them all.
I mean, let's be fair, Fly Lady takes a lot of time.
In theory, on paper, it shouldn't, because it's 15 minutes here, it's 10 minutes here, there, But all of these little bits of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour's, today's errand day, all of these things, they kind of add up and end up being quite time consuming.
Particularly to someone who needs a lot of time to mentally refocus. So for you, that's not just 10 minutes out of your day.
No, it takes me 20 minutes to work up enough focus to be able to do it, yeah.
And then another 20 minutes
to change
to the other thing that you need to be doing. And then before you know it, that 10-minute task has taken an hour, and there's 3 of those in a day.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, I'm really struggling with not all of the Fly Lady routines, but some of them. And I think that is a general issue. That it's definitely an issue I had with Fly Lady in the past, and it's an issue I have heard people talk of a lot, is that there's just so much of it. Yeah.
And you did try tailoring it so that you were doing more chunks. So you're doing it less often but more. But you're also struggling with that as well.
Yeah, is that when I have a week where I am just focused on, let's do my routines, let's have a homemaking week, works fine. And I think this is just a time issue, is that we don't have enough time to be just full-time homemakers.
Well, yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Is running a household is a full-time job.
It takes quite a lot, yeah.
It takes enough time for a full-time job, and then it's whether there's one person doing all of that or whether that's split between people. It still takes that much time and effort and energy.
Yeah. And that's not even counting in like grocery shopping and making dinner every day and
Yeah, exactly.
cooking 3 meals a day. It's
Yeah, it's a lot.
there's a lot to do, and I just need to work out a way to rebalance everything. We're going to rebalance the chores and the housework and work out what we can do, what we need to do, whether our goals is the same. Is the goal still we want to be proud of our house, or is it something else?
I mean, it's not like we have many guests around, so as long as we're comfortable here.
Yeah.
I think that's something we've become a bit complacent with as well, because we've become hermits.
We have, yeah.
And we love it.
We've very much enjoyed becoming people that like to be at home. And part of that was because we've made our house was so nice and clean and tidy, is that we wanted to be in it more. But now we've got complacent.
Yeah. Having that, I want the house to be nice for other people for when they visit, doesn't work.
No.
Because
To be fair, we do have people visit.
We do,
We have
but they
lots
don't-
of people visit every week through YouTube.
And the friends that we do have know us well enough that they don't care if we've tidied or not.
No, of course they don't.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change that there is an issue with our routines and we need to make them work for us again, because there's no point in having routines that don't work. We'll still do Fly Lady, I expect, but I might have to adjust them again. Which I guess leads us on to how do you fix things when you have a routine that isn't working anymore?
Well, the first thing is that discussion of, is it working?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't change something if you don't know
Don't
if
know
it
that
needs
it-
changing or not.
Yeah.
So just having this conversation is like a massive part of that.
Yeah. And for us, that is definitely a whole household conversation, because we want to take into account both of our needs, but both of our abilities, the time we both have.
The energy that we have,
Yeah.
which does like definitely wax and wane.
Yeah. So for us, it's definitely a household conversation. I know it's not necessarily that way for everyone, but for us, it definitely is. Because we like to consider the needs for everyone in the house. Like our own needs, but the pets' needs because it doesn't matter what happens, we actually can't change our pets' routines. They need them.
The pets love their routines as well.
Yeah.
They thrive in their routines too.
And they need feeding and walking and brushing and all of the things that they need, but that doesn't change.
Yeah.
So there are some things that are always a constant, no matter how much energy you have. But we have to take in everyone's needs. So, but then from there, I think the next stage would actually be to work out what your desired outcome is. Is your desired outcome still the same? Is it, for us, do we still want to be proud of our house, or have we moved to a point where we want to be comfortable in our house for us?
I like that idea. But
Yeah.
that idea sounds like it should have more snuggly clothes and blankets.
We can have more blankets.
Like we don't have enough blankets already.
But then we have to, once you've worked out what your desired outcome is it realistic? Like, start thinking about...
What do you mean I can't have a pillow fort?
You can have a pillow fort. I have not once stopped you from having a pillow fort.
We're having a pillow fort after this podcast.
So working out if it's realistic or not is a really important stage, because there's no point having your desired outcome and working towards that goal if you cannot physically achieve it. That's not going to help anyone.
Well, yeah, when we were first discussing it, we were like, we want a show home. And then we were both like, but we want to be able to live in it.
Yeah. Yeah, show home was mentioned at one point.
Yes.
And then we were like, no, maybe we don't want a show home.
No, maybe we would like this to be realistic and achievable.
And then once you've worked out whether it's realistic and adjusted your goal so that it is realistic, next you need to work out what you need to do to make that work.
Yes.
Like, do you need time? Do you need things? Do you need to implement different routines? What is it that you need to do to achieve what you want?
Sometimes that might be new equipment.
Yeah.
Or, carving out actual time, saying this is from this hour to this hour, this is what I'm doing every day, or whatever's needed, yeah.
Yeah, so whatever that is. And then it is not going to work straight away.
No.
Like, I don't think many people come to a solution and go, that actually really worked well.
So
a lot of it, there's a lot of trial and error.
7 years we've been tweaking and poking and changing and prodding and trialing and working things out and changing some things. There's some ideas that we tried that were just like, nope, not working. And others we've been like, it works a bit if we tweak it this way or that way. Like, our channel didn't come out of nowhere overnight.
No, the point that we started was not where we started this journey.
Yeah.
Like, it does not document the whole journey. We'd actually done quite a lot before we got to the point where we were like, let's film this.
Yeah.
But we are forever trialing and erroring things. We're forever adjusting things.
And we're forever looking for new ideas and concepts and to think. We do have a whole bunch of books that we're going to be going through at some point to see what new ideas and different perspectives we have.
Different things that we can learn. Yeah, I've got a really old one. I'm looking forward to reading that. And that's quite an important thing, is don't be afraid to change things. Just because you've done something for 10 years doesn't mean you can't change it.
Oh, in fact, if you've been doing it for 10 years, chances are it needs changing by now. You are not the same person as you were 10 years ago. You're probably not in the same needs and requirements, and your household will have probably changed. So, yeah, chances are you need to keep that in mind while sorting out what you need to do next and what that next step looks like.
Yeah, and then I think it's probably the last step is, don't expect it to just be that way forever. Like, this is always going to be
it's always a journey.
It's always a journey. Everything's always going to be adjusted, because nothing ever stays the same. I think it's the only thing that you can be sure of in life, is that nothing will ever be the same.
Yeah. Which really sucks when you have autism, you hate change.
Yeah.
Like, the only constant is change. Just like, can you not, please? I'd really like to just not have change for a minute.
Yeah. So we have been, and we will continue to work out our routines and keep adjusting them. One day, you never know, we might find the holy grail of routines.
And then life will change, and then it won't be the holy grail anymore. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Every household is different, but every household is different in that moment. We're not the same household as we were before. But that's a good thing.
Yeah. Life would be boring otherwise.
I like life being boring.
But anyway, that's a good place to end this. I would love to hear your routines, if you've made any changes, whether you think you should make any changes. So do let us know. If you would like to hear more from us, we have a lot more podcasts to come. You can either subscribe on YouTube or follow on any of the other platforms you might be listening to us on. And if you want to see our routines in action, check out our YouTube channel and our videos on that.
Yeah, we've got loads of those.
We are Curious Life, intentional homemaking for everyone. And we will speak again soon. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Bye.